Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel. My name is Stuart Ironguts McCowan, and today we have a very important video. This is talking about one of the most important things that's happened to Gloomspite Gitz since it came out. Okay, it's an Underworld's warband, but this is an absolutely significant change, and I'm going to talk about why in today's video. Okay, but before I do that, I encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so please do that if you can. A lot of you who are watching this video are not, unfortunately, so please subscribe to the video. If you're interested in receiving more behind-the-scenes content, including a little rally workshop video that I'm going to do going out today on the Patreon, go ahead and check out my Patreon, link in the description below, and please leave a like on the video. Okay, so today we're talking about Grinkrak's Looncourt, okay, which is a new Warhammer Underworlds warband that's coming out soon. I believe it's on pre-order in most countries now. I don't think, unfortunately, Japan is going to get it in the foreseeable future. Maybe it's a week late or so, but yeah, this is an absolutely great warband, and we're going to talk about why today, okay? So just expectations going into this, right? Let's just set where Gloomspite Gitz are at the moment for me, okay? So I have been playing basically squigs non-stop for about 4 or so months now. I've played some other factions in between, but I've mainly been centering my army around either 1 unit of 30 squig hoppers or 2 units of 30 squig hoppers. Now, the 2 units of 30 squig hoppers list don't really work, I've decided. It's sort of too much of a good thing, right? I was talking to my friend about this, and he was saying, like, well, doesn't that just mean they're bad? No, it doesn't mean they're bad. And you think about it, well, it's like, okay, you know, in a lot of other armies, you have something that's great, right? Like, for example, I don't know, let's go with, like, Graveguard and Soulblade Gravelord. So let's go with, what would be a particularly good example? Maybe, like, Seraphon, we have, like, a Slan or something. You know, like, strong units, okay, that, you know, when they're deployed, normally they feel great, right? Like, yeah, like they feel like they're a really solid unit. But as soon as you spam them, the efficiency starts to go down a little bit. Now, I've personally been critical of this in the past with like the Oops All Flies Nurgle list, where I felt like taking more flies can kind of remove the efficiency of them a little bit. And then the counter argument for that is, well, if you take more flies, then you're guaranteed to have the effect of the flies, okay? But they're not every unit in the game you can necessarily spam, right? Because units have synergies, they have certain battlefield role, and Gloomspite Gitz, I feel, is an army where spam is not necessarily encouraged because it has so many synergies, and it's a castle army, so it's very important that units have distinct roles, okay? Cruel Boys is another example of an army where, okay, yes, Bolt Boys are great, but we need to take other things to enable the Bolt Boys to do what they want to do. Okay, so that's the point I've reached with the squig hoppers, right? The 30 squig hoppers, we want units that enable them to do what they're going to do. Rather than just spamming the crap out of them, we want to make efficient lists around them, okay? And put other things in that solve problems of the squig hoppers, okay? Now, while that's going on, I have some friends playing lots of, like, stabbers, okay, or shooters. More shooters, actually, with the Loon Boss, okay, for mortal wounds, obviously, like an old school combo. I've seen people spamming Boingruts in units of 5. I've seen people spamming Squig Herd. I don't think that's very good, but people have been doing that. So that's been going on behind the scenes, okay? And all while this is going on, Trogs have been seen as probably the strongest unit in Gloomspite Gitz. I have never really agreed with that, but that's how they're perceived. I think in the end, a 5-up ward makes them survivable, and that's more than the rest of the army can say. But with 4-up rallies, squig hoppers are an extremely durable unit, okay? It's very rare that a unit of 30 squig hoppers will actually die full to dead. And even if they do, you can obviously bring them back a unit of 15 on a 4-up with the Loon Shrine, so killing them doesn't necessarily feel that fruitful. Okay, but what are the problems with Gitz, and how can this warband possibly solve them, okay? Well, the biggest problem with Gitz is the fact that you can only fight in one place at a time. Okay, now the reason for that is because while this army does have damage and it has wounds, the problem is nothing is really that durable. Even Trogs, right? You go in and you have a unit of 6, and you don't really want to be losing 2 before you fight, okay? Because if you lose 2, then you might not kill what you want to kill. You might fail the battle tactic, which we need to pass, okay? Because we have to do all of the core rulebook ones because we don't have our own. So often when we're going in, we need to guarantee that we're going to kill something. We're going to do gaining momentum. We need to guarantee that we're going to kill it. Okay? So you can only fight in one place at once. All right, now the reason that that's a huge issue is, well, okay, so on your opponent's turn when they come in, what if they just go and just attack, one unit, take it off, and then don't engage in any other combats, right? Well, that means we're doing no damage on our opponent's turn. So on our turn, we need to be able to kill more than one unit, right? So we need to be able to do more damage than one unit on our turn in order to meaningfully make a hole in our opponent's army, right? Because otherwise all we're doing is we just go in, we kill one unit, our opponent comes back, kills one of our units, and we just keep trading one for one like that. And unfortunately, because we don't have our own battle tactics, that's going to end up being a lost game for us. So we need to be able to kill more than one unit in our turn, okay? So that's number one. And the second thing is, the damage is kind of unreliable. The Trogs have too few attacks, so it's swingy. The Squigs only have Rend 1, so it's swingy. And the Stabbers and Shooters are the most reliable unit, okay? But the problem with them is they need Loon Boss buff. So if the Loon Boss gets pinged off, or they have Raw, then they're not doing any damage. So the reliability is a problem, okay? So those are these two problems. So let's go into this War Scroll, because I think it helps solve both of those problems. And we're going to talk about why. So this War Scroll has two components to it, right? We have a hero, and then we have a Looncourt, okay? So let's talk about Grinkrak the Great. So it's a grinning man who's on crack. I don't know what this is. Okay, so he has 5-inch move, 6 wounds, 4-up save. Hey, I was expecting 5 up there, but we got 4 up. Okay, nice. Bravery 5. All right, bravery sucks, but we're a goblin. What are we going to expect? We have a moon slice, which is 5 attacks, 3 threes, neg 1 rend, D3 damage. Just kind of okay damage. I also like that it's 2-inch range. He has a 6% ward, which is extremely whatever. But, okay, here's the important part. Alright. At the start of the combat phase, you can pick one other friendly Moon Clan unit within 3 of this unit to be dubbed. If you do, to the end of that phase, you can basically fight on death. Okay, let's talk about this. So, I was saying before that one of the main problems with Gitz is not being able to fight in multiple places. Okay, so what we can do is we can send in one unit and against a target that we know we're going to kill that unit, okay, and then we can put our pile in on death on the other unit that we haven't gone with, okay, so that when our opponent hits us, we're going to be able to fight on death with that unit, okay? So in doing so, we're basically going to get to play 2 combats at the same time. We're going to get to do 2 combats without, just losing one unit before it gets to strike, right? That's super important, because I was saying that was one of the main limitations before. And the other thing that's super important is the reliability of the damage, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go in with, 24 Squig Herd with a Snuffler buff and a Move Face Moment buff. So they're getting an extra Rend, basically, and an extra attack, okay? Now, normally, that's enough to kill, a mid-durable unit, but like a super durable unit, it's not going to be enough, okay? And this is quite helpful because Squig Herd are very good at dying. So what this means is I can go in with a Squig Herd, okay? I'm going to go once, I'm going to go with them first. So here I'm only doing one combat, okay? Because I haven't been able to make the other combat pile in on death. So this combat, well, all I'm doing is I'm sending in the Squig Herd, and we're going to try and super kill something, right? So I'm going to send him in, I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to give him dub V, okay? Alright. And then my opponent's going to go back with the rest of the unit that's there, and they're going to strike me, and hopefully they're going to kill a lot. And what that means is I'm going to be able to go again with the Squig Herd. So basically, I've had another activation because I'm piling on death. Alright, now, given that Gloomspite Gitz has amazing ability to bring back models that die, so, for example, 4-up Rally, coming out of the Loon Shrine, being able to pile in on death and get that super value out of that Squig Herd unit, and kill what you want it to kill, is absolutely amazing, right? So we've solved 2 things with this ability. We've solved the ability to not be able to fight in multiple places, and we've solved the inability to kill super tough targets, alright? We've actually kind of solved that with these 2, with this ability here, okay? So the question is, really, how reliable is this guy at doing his job? Okay, so we know the ability now is great, and it solves some problems with the army. So let's talk about whether it's worth the points and whether he can do it reliably. So part of that reliability component is in his little group of dudes here. Now, they've got a bunch of attacks. Basically, you get a wonky lance and a Squig Spear, and then the rest of them have these crappy jaggedy blades. You have the Squigapult, which is actually kind of okay. Like, it's really hard to to get it through, like the 4s and 3s. But if you do, D3 plus 2 is actually really not that bad. Like, you could spike and kill a hero with that. So, I'm a fan of this sort of, like, ranged weapon where, okay, in an army that doesn't have any shooting, it can actually kill something. The problem with just having one that's, like, D3 damage is they're just going to heal it, or, you know, it's not going to really count. So, this actually might matter. So, I like this. Okay, now they have this quest thing where basically, after you set them up, you can pick one objective or terrain feature in the enemy territory to be the object of this unit's quest, and if you gain control of it, you get a 4-up ward for the rest of the battle. Okay, now very nice, because it doesn't say that the objective or terrain feature has to be wholly within enemy territory. So if it's an objective on the border between the two territories, you're going to be able to pick this with this, and usually you can kind of get it first turn if you do that, right? You just like send them on the middle objective. Like if your opponent gives you first, you just chuck them on the middle objective. They have a 4-up ward, which is pretty nice. Like it's actually like 12 wounds with a 4-up ward, which is really not bad. Like that's actually quite hard to kill. So yeah, great. And then they basically act as a bodyguard for the other guy. I believe with the way this is worded, you're not going to be able to take the ward, right? Because the wound that they take for Grinkrak will be allocated to them, and you're supposed to roll the ward before the mortal wound is allocated. So ask your TO about that one. I think personally you probably don't get to take it, but perhaps other people have some different interpretations. But okay, that's what this unit does. Now, they don't take buffs too badly. Like, if you have a Loon boss and some, like, bonus attacks, because they have the Moonclan Grot keyword, like, they're actually kind of alright. Like, they have a decent number of attacks. You know, basically have, like, 14 attacks, and you could buff that to them having, like, 20, or... Like, they're kind of okay. Like, if you're in the late game, you kind of need a unit to get something done. I wish this wonky lance had some rend. I don't know why it doesn't. That seems really strange to me. Perhaps this is like some foreshadowing of what the Boingrot Bounder's warscroll is going to look like. So maybe like this wonky lance, and then in the squig profile is what it's going to be. But we never know with this kind of thing. Okay, so this is a great warscroll too. So we have an extremely good ability, and we have some bodyguard mechanic to shrug it off. And we also have this nice ability here, which can make this unit more useful than just like some dudes. So I think this is a great warscroll. Now, the question is the cost, right? Okay, so it's 190 points, which is a lot. Okay, it is a lot, because, you know, a usual Gloomspite Gitz hero would be something in the realm of like 80 points, right? And then, you know, your usual shooter squad is like 120 for 20 wounds. Now, if this gets the 4-up ward, it's actually like more efficient than the shooters, right? It's actually kind of effectively like 24 wounds of shooters. So they're actually quite good from a wounds effectiveness standpoint, as long as you get the 4-up ward. If you don't get the 4-up ward, it's more difficult. So you kind of have to have a way to get the objective. So like putting expert conquerors in there so that you can guarantee getting the border objective turn 1 is really nice. I would recommend that. Yeah, but even if you don't, they're going to be great ablative wounds for this Grinkrak bloke. And yeah. What I really like about it too is that this is optional, okay? The bodyguard. Now, sometimes they're not. Sometimes you have to roll it. But the reason why this is so great is because basically you can be risky with the way you take wounds on this guy, okay, on Grinkrak. Like you can pick, you know, sometimes, okay, I'm going to allocate wounds to him, and then sometimes I'm going to allocate it to the Looncourt, and I should call it the Wound Court, because that's kind of what it is. But, you know, you can be choosy about it, okay? You don't have to, like, do it every time, so that's really strong, too. So I got 190 points. Now, I think at 170, this would be absolutely auto-include. At 190, it is a lot of points, okay? But I ultimately think it's worth it. And the reason is because you have to think about it as often you're getting, like, almost double the effectiveness out of certain units, right? Like, for example, let's talk about the Mangler Squig, right? Okay, Mangler Squig as a warscroll, it just, like, it doesn't do quite enough damage. Like, against a 3-up save, I think it does, like, 13 damage. Okay, and that's, like, not quite enough. Like, I'm not going to quite kill a unit of 3 Varangard with that. And then the Varangard that's there probably kills the Mangler Squig, right? Okay, so being able to guarantee I can kill something with him, like, just chuck all the buffs on the Mangler, send him in, he's going to die, okay? But when he dies, he's going to get to fight an additional time. So he's going to get to fight twice. That means I can do something like, I think it's 27 damage to a 3-up save if you go twice with the Mangler. So in terms of points, that's like absolutely insane, right? Like that's absolutely insane in terms of effectiveness. So you got to think about this guy as like, okay, yeah, he's expensive, but he's making your other units worth more, right? Like your 270 point unit suddenly has the capability once per game, admittedly at the cost of its, of its body, but has the ability to go an additional time. And then, what I was saying before about being able to fight multiple spots on the board, it makes it much harder for your opponent to just kind of come in and blow stuff off, which is usually a problem with Gitz, right? Like your opponent can come in and just blow you off in your turn, in their turn, and you're not going to get to hit them on your turn. And then you got this problem of like, oh, I can't fight in multiple places, but my opponent's kind of closing in on my Loon Shrine. Are they going to blow up my Loon Shrine? Are they going to destroy my house? We have all sorts of these worries, okay? So I think that this unit is amazing. All right, now I just want to, at this point, talk about some of the war scrolls that are going to be good with this, okay? So I'm just going to go to Wikipedia quickly. All right, so... Alright, we're going to talk about some of the war scrolls that can possibly work with this well, okay? And the first one is the Mangler, okay? And I was saying before why this is good, so you're going to get to go twice with the Mangler. Now, with a normal monster war scroll, the bracketing would be a problem, okay? Because, well, when you pile in on death, you're dead, so you have taken 12 wounds, okay? With the Mangler, because he has 12 wounds. But here, you'll notice with the Mangler that the bottom bracket is the same as the top bracket. This is usually a bad thing because you don't want to be on your bottom bracket when you've taken 6 wounds. But if you're piling in on death, then you're going to have your full attack profile when you're dying. Okay, so you're going to go with the Mangler. Like, let's say, for example, your opponent leaves your Mangler on 2 wounds. You're going to go in, you're going to attack, and then he's definitely going to kill you, and then you're going to get to go again. All right, so suddenly out of this 2-wound little monster dude, you've gotten like this huge volume of damage that you probably shouldn't have, okay? So this is, I think, a really strong use of the Pylon of Death, and I think one that boosts the Mangler's effectiveness as a unit by quite a bit. Okay, one of the other ones that's interesting, I think, for me, is the Hoppers, okay? So Hoppers are quite interesting because we can take them in 30s, right? So we have the ability to 4-up rally. Now, the reason that they're such good receiving models for the rally is because they're fast, right? So the idea is, and I'll talk about this more in the Patreon video, that you're going to like send them in, like you're going to fully send it with the Squig Hoppers, and you're going to attack, and then string back your unit, okay? String them back to the Loon Shrine so you have like some models to 4-up rally with, okay? Now, your opponent's going to blow the front side of it off. You're gonna break coherency, go all the way back to the Loon Shrine. Okay, now the reason that you need them to be fast is because if they're slow, then, well, you can't hit anything on your turn, right? All you're going to end up doing is moving them in the middle, and then your opponent will just kill them, okay? But if you are a Squig Hopper, then you can, like, remove the models in the front, go all the way down to the back, rally, and then go into combat again. Okay, and you might even be able to do this boing boing thing, right? Which is do some mortals in the process, okay? So Squig Hoppers are great for receiving rally, okay? Which ultimately makes them great at receiving Pylon on Death, right? Because Pylon on Death rewards you for dying, okay? So a unit that can come back effectively is going to make great use of Pylon on Death. Now, these guys have a problem, which is reach, and that does have a problematic interaction with Pylon on Death because, unfortunately, you don't remove the models when you're Pylon on Death until all of them are fought. So you can't, like, just, go in and just hit one at a time. You have to, like, still maintain your unit shape, and then you can do the Pylon and Death. So that's the problem with the Squig Hoppers, but you can see that because they can come back so effectively that they're quite good at using it. All right, another one that I think is really great are the Squig Herd. Okay, because you can go twice with them, right? And they're really good at dying because they don't have any defensive buffs. The stabbers in that have -1 to hit, which means that your opponent may choose to just not hit you. But these guys, I guess they can't choose not to hit you, but they're going to be able to hit you a bit less because of the -1 to hit, right? Maybe they like move into range of the netters and stuff like that. There's some kind of like anti-synergy you feel there. And also with the stabbers, they don't have the ability to receive run and charge, whereas the Squig Herd have that ability because of the moon to get run and charge. So what I was saying before about, you know, the rallying with the squig hoppers, right? You know, ultimately we can kind of like, you know, like kill some squig herd, get to pile in attack again, and then, you know, rallying back. Now, the great thing about the squig herd as well, because since they're GVs, if you take a Moon Clan General, which you will, they have better reach, okay, than the squig hoppers, okay? So, you know, you can see how this could really work. With okay, you go in with the squig herd once, you pile in, and then you pile in attack again, and you're like gonna get heaps in both times. Okay, so squig herd, I think, a really good use of it. All right, now the shooters and stabbers. I'm just gonna talk about the stabbers and why they're not perhaps like the best use. Okay, the problem with the stabbers in general is without the Loon Boss buff, they're not gonna do like any damage. Okay, because there's no rend. So I mean, you can give them the moment for effectively 1 rend, but they're just not gonna do damage without the Loon Boss buff, okay? And what I was saying before is we want to be able to fight in more than one place at a time. So if we can only buff 1 unit with the Loon Boss, then isn't that kind of defeating the purpose of taking the guy in the first place? Like, we want to be able to fight in more places than once, right? Stabbers are more suited to a list with just like a crap load of wounds that's hard to get through, right? Like a crap load of wounds in Expert Conquerors, and you're kind of playing like, you know, you might only kill 1 unit a turn, but that's fine because you're going to be holding the objectives, right? That's kind of the idea with this sort of army. So I don't understand the point necessarily of taking the Pile in on Death guy, because it just doesn't synergize with that army as well. I could be wrong here, but you know, like in terms of damage, the stabbers could be like really positive. But the speed isn't there, and I think ultimately you would rather just take more wounds in a stabber's sort of archetype than take the Pile in on Death guy. So I think stabbers are not necessarily a positive use. Another good use is Boingrots, okay? Another squig unit, because, yeah, they're fast. And the other thing that makes these guys good with it is, I mean, the relatively low wound count. So they're actually kind of good at dying if their opponent has rend. So, you know, against like a particularly strong unit, you can go in, do the mortal wounds on the charge in the process, have a boatload of attacks at rend 1. There's ways to boost the rend, obviously. And these guys can be really strong. The problem with these is just the 2d6 move, which I hate. I hate with a passion because it's just swingy. The 3d6 is much less swingy because, I mean, 3d6 is just more reliable. 2d6 can be anything from 2 to 12. Whereas I find with the squig hoppers, you generally don't roll like lower than a 7. It's like super rare. So that's the problem with these guys. But other than that, I think it's a good use. Okay, so that is the Grinkrak Looncourt's War Scroll. Let me know if you got any thoughts in the comments about this. I think this is like a super positive change to Gloomspite Gitz. And ultimately, it's led to me deciding I'm going to take them to CanCon, okay? I'm going to take Gloomspite Gitz to CanCon, and these guys are going to be on my list. I'm going to take squigs. I'm going to take my 30 squig hoppers. So for those of you who are there, beware the 30 squig. Nah. But yeah, it'll be really fun to see what I can do with this unit and the squig hoppers, because I think there's some great synergy there. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to the channel and check out the Patreon, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay, goodbye for now.